Welcome to Forged in the Fires podcast with Fireman Rob. Being a fireman, father, veteran, husband, world record holder, and Ironman, he brings stories of experience to impact your life while challenging you to live it. What do you want from your life? Why do you want it? Are you willing to go through the challenges to get there? If you have the courage to take that first step, let this podcast be the catalyst to start your fire while you bring the resilience to make it continue to burn. Our lives are made up of moments called right nows. So let's get started. Forged in the Fires podcast with your host, Fireman Rob, begins now.
We got the same blood, the same blood. Stay by your side, it's ride or die. We've got the same blood.
Today, we have a great guest who really deals with the power of our stories and her backstory and everything that she works for. She's really making a huge impact in this world, especially on first responders in the military. She is the founder and producer of The Power of Our Story. She's a wife. She's a mother. She's an amazing person who is a philanthropist, educator. Oh, it's amazing. Let's just get this started. Sara Correll, thanks so much for joining me.
Rob, thanks so much for having me. I appreciate that very kind intro.
Well, I would have kept going, but I don't want to take up the whole time talking about the great things that you've done.
Oh, I'm surrounded by great people. That's what I can say.
I love it. I want to go back. I actually want to go back. So you're a wife, you're a mother of 4 sons. You say that is the greatest accomplishment, raising the 4 boys. Yeah. Tell me more about that.
Oh my gosh. I just, I remember thinking, I think, we'll have maybe 1 or 2 kids, and we ended up with 4 boys, which is so comical to me.
Wow.
My relatives always thought of me as a girl's mom. And so to have 4 was quite a surprise. And I just cannot be more grateful. My family is definitely the core of my heart. They are everything to me. They have taught me so much. And I feel like everything that I'm doing now is really an extension from what I learned, from them and raising them. And I can't say enough about that. I'm so grateful to have that honor to raise them.
I could only imagine the stories. I mean, being a parent myself, you understand the power of stories when you're talking about, in essence, parenting, but, surviving parenting. And you, so you have that down probably, right?
No, I'm thinking grandkids are very soon. So, I have a second shot at all this too.
As if the first time was not, enough stress, you're going for it again.
Oh man. I could not be more excited.
I love it. I want to get into really, because your background, I had a Bachelor of Science from San Diego State in drug and alcohol counseling and a drug and alcohol counseling certificate. And I want to go back to your instructor there at UCSD, the Chief Petty Officer, Paula Wold.
Yes.
What was tell me more about that mentorship, that power that kind of has maybe shifted to where you're at now.
Oh, okay. So actually her name is Paula.
Oh,
Wold.
I read that wrong. Paula. There you go.
Yeah. Oh, it's okay. I feel like I was in an arena where I really felt like I was a fish out of water. And I'm not in recovery myself. So, all the 12 steps totally made sense to me, I think, for anybody on this planet that is recovering just from life itself, So I felt very connected, except for the fact that I think it's a very close-knit community, the recovery community. Yeah. So there were just things that I needed to learn. But what I felt like I learned a lot from her is she was so good at instructing, and I think the biggest thing that I personally got out of that was understanding trauma more.
Yeah.
And so I never ended up, I did have an internship with homeless men. They put me with homeless addicted men, and I facilitated groups, and I loved them. I loved creating family.
Wow.
And I love seeing the growth and just the way people blossom when they're in community of safety. And, so everybody, I think, and then the more everybody kind of shared stories and we shared strategies, the more connected people felt. And a lot of this was articulated by my instructor, Paula. She would always say, we heal in community. And, just these golden nuggets that I took forward. Yeah.
That's powerful to have somebody, and then you yourself have created this, because I want to jump into this, because I love the name of it, The Power of Our Story, because it's so powerful. Being a first responder and a veteran, it's understood the power of what we've seen, how we've taken it, and being able to tell that story. Tell me the premise behind when you're like, I need to give them a safe place to be able to share their stories.
Oh, yes. Okay. Well, first off, for any protector out there that's listening to this, I want you to know it was one Army veteran in one of my classes that shared his story with me that changed my whole trajectory.
Oh, wow.
So I was one of these civilians who was very caught up in our own life, which is plenty busy enough, right? I just I didn't have our protectors on my radar because I just wasn't connected. So I kind of felt like, yes, thank you for our protectors, because if anything happens, we can call them. But I was so detached. I didn't have any friends really that were, maybe, the kids' sports, there were people that were active duty, right. But I just didn't really know anything about it. I wasn't connected. And so when this veteran shared his story, I was almost horrified. Like, how could we send 17, 18, 19-year-old kids off to war?
Yeah.
And how could we not be part of that as civilians? And that, which brings me back to my instructor, Paula, who used to share that, in other cultures, the whole community would come together when the warriors came back to be part of that, to share stories, to talk through, to help reintegrate, to help heal, like whatever is needed. They did it as a community. And I never forgot that. So there's all these like puzzle pieces that started coming together during that time that formed this idea of, when we come together in community, we heal. And we should be doing this together with our protectors. When I heard that there was such a high suicide rate with our protectors, and because a lot of this was launched by, my dad died by suicide.
Yeah.
So,
Oof.
Yeah, it just all kind of came together. And I thought, sharing our stories together, you don't have to be a clinician. You just have to care. You just have to listen. And when people come together, if I could make these very simple platforms, bringing our protectors together, it all just kind of progress from there, because, protectors protect each other.
And
that's
themselves.
The cool thing, right? They are so good to each other. Like, they're the ones on our platform, The Power of Our Story, just by sharing stories and by having other protectors validate that, like, we hear you. Oof, I have felt the same way. Ooh, that happened to me too. We share resources, just vetted resources.
Yep.
We're learning how to share our stories more potently right now. That's kind of one thing that's happening now. We have a, awesome, that's Holly Higgins. She's actually a Gold Star mom. She's teaching us how to share our stories. And she's part of the Scott Mann team, Hero's Journey and Last Out, Elegy of a Green Beret play, all veteran play. She's part of that. And she's coming to our group on Thursday nights to help us share our stories better, to heal and to help others heal. Yeah, and then we have, Patrick McCurdy is one of the main people who facilitates a roundtable. He's a former police officer, now works
Yep.
with first responder wellness. He facilitates great conversations.
That's huge.
Yeah, we have Joel Landy, another Navy veteran who facilitates a leadership group on Fridays, and then we have another former police officer and nurse, Erin Terrell and Sarah Marie. They are doing a Don't Suffer in Silence group. So, yeah, said a lot there. I'll take a breath here.
No, I love that. I mean, you can tell the passion behind your voice, and I think that's what always drives these things home more, especially with first responders and military, is when you can see that the person that started it has the same passion for what they're trying to help you with as they did when they were serving the country or serving their city. Now, I want to go into that. You were talking about, it's so important for community. And I know I see, you mentioned tribe. We are a tribe that grows stronger together. Our stories deliver hope. What have you seen? Because I think a lot of people are hesitant at first to tell their stories. Is there a standard in which you can see somebody like maybe the second or third time, or is it unique to each person?
Oh yeah, it is unique. And this is something I feel very protective of people actually sharing their stories. So, I really think that people do need a place of safety where things are not recorded. We record people that are used to sharing their stories. Like maybe they have a book out that they want to promote, or somebody they're already kind of out of their trauma. They're on a road of healing. They're ready to share their story. The platform that we have for learning to share our stories more, it's for the people that are ready, that want to share their stories. They feel comfortable. They've built trust. That's a huge thing with our groups, is that we're all very passionate about providing safety. It's a no judgment zone. Because, we know, yes, we've heard all the stories, kind of some of the hardships that people did not feel safety in their agencies. And just because I think that was just not.
It wasn't the norm. It wasn't the norm. I remember that. Yeah,
it wasn't the norm. So I think things are changing now because more and more first responders are seeing the importance of that. But that's what I feel very passionate about. I think even because of some hard lessons building up to what we have now, you have to go through hard times to kind of see what you don't want and what you do want. And that is something that I really saw so clearly, is you have to have safety and build trust. It's got to be that for anybody to feel like they want to share or open up or build relationships. But once that's there, I have seen people come on our calls in the beginning just so witdrawn.
I was going to say, yeah.
What was that?
I was going to say ready, because I mean, I'm just saying from my standpoint, I see what you're doing, and I've looked at some of the group stuff, and it's almost that point of that feeling of relief, of there's something that I can finally be a part of and finally tell my story. Have you seen that in a lot of people? Have you heard that from people of? Yeah. This is unburdening myself.
Absolutely. Once they get to the point where they do share their story, it's such a release. That's what I've heard. It's such, but when a lot of people come on, they don't say a thing. Okay. We've had, I've gotten quite a few messages that this has saved their life. That's awesome. If this didn't work, then that would have been it. Just stories like one police officer, former police officer, rescued. He was hit by a car because he was trying to rescue a female officer, And the traumatic brain injury, just what happens to somebody who has a traumatic brain injury and post-traumatic stress. He lived, 9 years in such pain and isolation. Yeah. And it was so sad, like, to see. And I don't see this in a pity. I'm not saying this in a heart of pity, but deep compassion, that he truly, truly suffered. I felt like he lost everything, his family, because when you have a traumatic brain injury, you don't always behave well, there's an injury there. So it has been wonderful to see him kind of raise up and now facilitate a group, and he feels like he has purpose now. And there's a lot of really cool things happening in his life. There's another, dispatcher, same thing. She came on, kind of sat in a dark corner, and she is just full of fire. She helps me so much in the power of her story. She's getting her master's. She's got a great job. She's going to get married. I mean, it's just really exciting to see, her real self. That's what it is people are getting back to their real self.
What does that mean to you? What does that, when you look at, with your father and with all the things that you've done, what does that mean to you be able to give somebody a second chance at their life?
Oh my gosh. It's such an honor. And it's, and just from personal experience of having to figure out my way back to some kind of normalcy. When I lost my dad, I was totally blindsided. And so I know that feeling of feeling like and I had, little boys at the time, and was soon to be pregnant with our fourth. It was just, the timing was rough too. But just that feeling of like, gosh, I just don't feel like I'm operating. I don't even have the language to understand what's happening. I don't know if I'm half crazy but you just feel like just simple tasks are so hard. Like just organization, looking at the calendar and trying to wrap your mind around how you're supposed to figure out the carpool and who has what sport and what's for dinner, and, make sure that lunches are, all organized and laundry's done. And it's just those simple things that you kind of just do are so hard when you've been traumatized. And there's so much shame too. Even though I'm not a first responder or a veteran, I'm human, so I can connect to that part, that there so often we don't have the language of what's happening. We don't have the psychology background, so we don't understand that we have been traumatized and that we're actually altered. And there's a lot of shame that comes up because that you're not your normal self.
Right.
And so what I have found, though, over time and sharing my story and my struggle and connecting with, listening, educating myself and going to school again for some counseling. And it's so healing that what I have found is that I have risen up to be a much better version of my true self.
Oh, that's huge.
Yeah, it's the shame part that we have to get people to understand, that it's shame is a destroyer.
Oh, it's debilitating.
It's debilitating. And if people can just understand that, you are not alone in that terrible invader coming in. When you have, maybe for police officers, you get into a critical incident and you don't feel like you've had a real debrief, and you're isolated until the investigation goes on. And, the trauma of even maybe having to shoot somebody. And, more than I do.
There's so many different factors that come into play. And I think it's from the first responder. I love that the stories that are helping the people to come out, because I know sitting around the firehouse table that it is stories that keep us going. It is stories that make us laugh. It is stories that, get us home at the end of shift. And it's so, and I think that's transitions throughout from the military to the police to dispatchers, is that, you know, the power, like you said before, the power of the story is the bond that binds us together as a tribe.
Yeah, it really is, because they're so vulnerable, and they're so connecting, because, you know, they're not, nobody's going to get defensive if you're just sharing your own story. And yet it's such an act of vulnerability and humility that it really draws people. And it truly connects people as human beings. Like this Army veteran that I sat next to, you know, we had nothing in real time in common, you know, as far as kind of what we do in life. Right. You know, but we very much connected on the trauma level. And I'm like, gosh, I felt so much for him, because he was had really struggled with suicide ideation. And I myself was just horrified at the thought of what my dad went through. Like, how does a person get that hopeful, that hopeless? Right. Yeah. So that was a real bonding place for us. And I got to learn so much about the veteran culture. And, you know, it helped me to become more competent. It took me a while, because it's, you know, it is very different. Yeah. And
a little bit.
yeah, it is. It's, except for the fact that, you know, we all, as human beings, we do experience trauma, and underneath all the content, we can definitely connect on that level if we're willing to be vulnerable, if we have the courage to do that.
No, is it true? One of your sons is in the military, is that correct?
Yes. Okay. After I started advocating.
That's amazing.
For a veteran. Yeah, it's the craziest thing ever. He just came home from high school. One day he goes, I'm going to enlist, and I'm going to be a Ranger. It's like, what?
And your response was?
Well,
do you really want it on recording or no?
I'll tell you that I got there. Right. I got there.
You got there.
I was really concerned, you know, because I am all on the trauma part. And, you know, I was working with, you know, and this person was tip of the spear too. Ranger is tip of the spear. Yep. And I thought, oh my gosh. I said, how about if you just grow up a little bit first? Why don't you go to college? So my response was not exactly what he was hoping for initially. Yeah, but
you knew the other parts of it, and I think that's you know, when you look at that aspect, and when you look at it from somebody who you know what the possibilities are, or even what the inevitable is. Yeah. What was going through your mind as far as like, okay, once you grasped the concept, once you accepted it, what were you as a parent thinking about? Well, how can I not just prepare them, but also know that I'm the support. I'm here. Anything you need me. What was that? What was that thought process?
Well, I got to a point where I said, why should it be somebody else's son?
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Yeah. I think that was a big shift for me personally. Like, no, I don't want my son to have to go through that. And then I thought about, you know, how, again, I have not been connected. You know, I had an uncle that served as a doctor, I think in Vietnam, but not really, you know, a big part of the storytelling in our family. Yeah. So I think after understanding like that initial aha moment with this veteran of like, oh my gosh, we're sending kids off to war and we're not taking care of them on the backside, and which also grew, you know, to our first responders, how there's so much being sacrificed in day-to-day life for our first responders. How come we are not supporting them and really rallying around them? Right. And so when I got to that point with our son, that's what I thought. I'm his biggest advocate, of course, now. I'm always sharing, like, this is what I'm learning. This is you know, hey, if you ever need anything, I've got like all these cups of coffees lined up for him because he's going to come. He and his wife are coming back. He married his high school sweetheart. So they're coming back to visit. And I'm already preparing his transition, you know.
Yep, exactly.
I'm being a little overboard. I know that, he's very focused on his job right now. So
Yeah.
this is not the time that they're super open to all these other conversations, but I do drop seeds. I drop seeds of what can happen with mental health, and for him to understand that, listen, a lot of people go through it. This is what you do if this happens, or, if you start noticing this, anxiety, or you're starting to feel, alone, or you're suffering in silence. That's the big one. If you feel like you're suffering in silence, know that isolation is the enemy. That's the Taliban. That is the Taliban. See isolation and suffering in silence as the Taliban.
Yeah. And that's the hardest thing when you're younger. And I know this from my experiences when I was younger. It wasn't easy to identify what the problems were. It just, you were either different. Somebody'd say you're different, or somebody'd say, oh my gosh, you must, you've seen a lot in your time, and you just brush it off. Yeah. It's as you kind of progressed in life and you go, I didn't deal with any of that, that all of a sudden, are you seeing that with individuals that are older, that are retired, that are coming to you and saying, I need this?
Yeah, it definitely, because retirement, as we haven't talked a lot about your story, but did you retire? Did you go like? No,
I'm still active. This will be my 23rd year.
Oh, okay. Well, all right. Yeah. Well, then this is for you too.
I'm old and tired. Teach me, Sarah.
Well, what I have heard too, just like active duty transitioning, for police officers, when they retire, and all first responders, maybe you'll get people reaching out like the first week, but all that intensity, all those phone calls, all that connection, like seriously comes to a stop.
Yeah.
And so a lot of things tend to bubble up. And so since people really don't have these conversations when they're active duty, or they're, still serving as a first responder, you don't have the language. Yeah. You don't, since it's not talked about, it's not on your radar of like, okay, this is what's happening. And so I think, gathering these recently retired law enforcement officers, just to be able to talk and really make sense of kind of what's happening, that there's, the suffering and silence has tended to be, needed, like, like the tip of the spear. If they're in theater, you can't go talking about your feelings. You have to suppress all that so that you can stay focused and you don't bring the morale down.
Yep.
But there's a season for everything. There's definitely a season, and what the mission is and what courage looks like changes when you get back into civilian life. It must change. And that is the focus for me, and the heartbreak also, that this is not talked about before transition of all protectors, that there is no really major emphasis on rebooting what all that looks like. Yes. So that you are set up for great success instead of, I don't want to say failure, but just,
it's not the linear path that you want to go down.
Right. You don't deserve that.
No,
you don't deserve that. For people that are protecting us, we need to be protecting you. On the back end. Absolutely.
That's such a huge thing. And it's so awesome what you're doing. I love it. I want people to go to thepowerofourstory.com. You can find out more about the forums. There's blog on there, and just more about what Sarah's doing. Amazing work. I appreciate you so much for coming on today. I have 3 questions before we end this. Are you ready for those?
Okay. I hope so. Yes.
You got to be prepared. You had all your coffee, I'm hoping. Yes. All right. If you could go back to your 18-year-old self and give yourself one piece of advice, what would that be?
Oh my gosh. One piece. I think maybe the top one is to really live in gratitude.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
Like
really live in gratitude and thankfulness. And I think that is so protective in this world.
Yeah, that's such a hard thing to do in the first responder community, in the military. And I love that that's what you said. So perfect. All right. The second one, if you could give people advice, everybody's having challenges and struggles. If you could have them do 2 habits daily to continue to move forward, what would those 2 things be?
2 habits. Okay. Oh man, only 2. See, that's hard. I have like 3 or 4. Let's see.
I'm distilling it down. It's the challenge of what's the best 2.
Oh, well, I can only speak for myself and what I believe. I really think it's so important to connect or reconnect to our Creator. I think that's where the true wisdom is. I feel like that is huge to really to connect to our Creator and to gain that wisdom, to grow in that wisdom. And the other is to have strong connection fellowship with people. I think those 2 things are just vital and can protect you, and you can have a great life in that, even if things around you seem like they're going crazy. You know, there's hope in that.
True. That's so true. So true. I love that. All right. You ready for this last one? This one's actually going to be fun.
Okay.
So if you could have coffee at a firehouse table, so in other words, no questions are off the table, everybody's going to answer them. If they could be 3 people, they can be deceased or alive. Who would those 3 people be?
Oh my gosh. That's a good one.
You weren't ready for this early.
Oh no. Oh man. I know I'll probably think later, oh, I should have said this, or
just shoot me an email. I'll put it in.
Oh gosh. Oh my gosh. Okay, this is really on the spot here. Let me think here. Oh wow. Oh my gosh, totally drawing a blank here. Rob.
Hey, you know, when you think about, like, you know, a lot of people go into it as like their ultimate questions. They always pick the people that they have like the ultimate questions. They're like, if I can ask them anything, I'm gonna choose this person.
Yeah.
Or they go back in time and have questions for people that maybe they didn't understand what they were talking about.
Well, okay, definitely my dad. I would have a lot of questions for him, and you know, why he felt like he couldn't say anything. That would be huge. I would, you know, who's intriguing to me now too is, I hope I don't get in trouble for this, but Jordan Peterson. I'd have a lot of questions for him.
Yeah.
He's very, very interesting to me. I like how he just kind of lays things out. I think another person who's interesting to me, even in politics and her background, being a protector, actually she is still a protector, is Tulsi Gabbard. I think she's another, she's such a woman of courage. Yeah. And so I think I would love to have a conversation with her too. So in my season of life right now, I think those are the 3 that pop in my head.
I love it. See, there's no wrong answers because they're the people that you want there. That's why I always love to ask that question, because it's like, there's no wrong answers.
Yeah. And maybe it'll change in 6 months, but
yeah, there you go. We'll have another one in 6 months and we'll make sure to hit that question.
Oh, cool.
Perfect. Well, Sara, it's been an honor to have you on. Make sure you go to thepowerofourstory.com. Find out more. Keep doing the great work you're doing.
Thank you so much. And likewise, thank you for getting people's voices out there. It's an honor to be on, Rob. Thank you.
Thanks for listening and supporting the Forged in the Fires podcast with Fireman Rob. Remember, don't forget to like and subscribe to this podcast, and please share this episode with a friend or family. To find out more about Fireman Rob or reach out about a question, go to www.firemanrob.com. Until next time, live your life forged in the fires.